Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Hopefully, you're doing well. How you doing? Happy afternoon. Happy Saturday. It is snowing, y'all. It is snowing. Isn't that so fantastic? Well, I guess that's what happens when you live in the Northeast. You have to deal with the winter actually being a winter. But hopefully, you all are enjoying. It's lightly snowing. It was lightly snowing, then had stopped, and now it's snowing again. So that is where we're at. But hopefully, everybody's having a good Saturday, maybe a lazy, restful Saturday. But yeah, we're here, and today we're going to talk about the what ifs of healing in your healing journey. What are those what ifs like? We'll talk a little bit more about that. Today, I have a brand new honey. I'm sorry, a brand new tea that I have not tried before. It is called True Honey. True Honey Teas. And I'm going to try the apple cinnamon. As you can see, the tea bags are right in here. Haven't opened the packaging yet. Haven't smelled it. None of it. So I have no idea what I'm getting into. This was a Christmas gift. So we'll find out if the person that gave it to me liked me or does not. Just kidding, y'all. So, oh my goodness. Y'all, the smell. It smells really good. Yeah, it is interesting packaging, right? I've never seen tea bags come in something like this. So we're going to see. I'm really curious, actually. Y'all, the tea bag is big. So this is, y'all, sorry, the lighting is not giving. It's not giving, y'all. But this is the size of the tea bag. And it, pretty good amount. The apple is like appling, y'all. It is very, very, very strong. I smell a hint. So it's called apple cinnamon. And when I opened the actual package, I smelled a lot of the cinnamon. Now I'm smelling more of the apple. Not mad either way, but it's just interesting. So again, in my mug, which says my cup overflows with blessings, y'all. I need that. I need that. That was a gift from my God, baby. All right. So let me steep this. Really curious what it's going to smell like when the hot water is added to it. I'm thinking, well, we'll see. I'm going to definitely taste it without anything added to it first. And then I have some, what is known as Christmas honey. And it has cinnamon in it. So I'm going to actually try that with it. We'll see what that combination comes out to be. So I'm not even smelling anything right now. It's in the hot water. I'm not smelling anything. So that's curious. Just a little bit about the company. Again, it's called True Honey Teas. And you can find them at truehoneyteas.com. It says the ingredients are apple honey granules, so apple juice, honey, citric acid, organic ribose, organic cinnamon pieces, cinnamon essential oil. It's also caffeine free. So for any of you who want a tea that is caffeine free, that's good. The rooibos that I talked about is a red bush plant known in South Africa for a bold flavor similar to black teas, but it's naturally caffeine free. So this is curious. And the cinnamon came from India. Y'all, this is international. So we will see. We'll see. It says to let it steep for 6 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to be waiting 6 to 10 minutes. That's what it boils down to. All right. So again, let me get the honey ready just in case. And I think you guys saw me. Well, I know you did. It's called Finest. Well, it's from Connemara, called Finest Honey. So that's that. All right. So getting all that set. How have you all been doing? How have you all been doing in your healing journey, just in general? Is everybody good? That would go good with whipped honey. Girl. You talking about my creamed honey? Because that's a whole thing. I got more honey for Christmas, and I haven't wanted to crack it open yet. I love that honey so much, y'all. I love that honey so much that I was like, I don't even want to crack it open because, yeah, because that's a thing for me. It's a thing. But hopefully everybody's, doing well. We're, a few weeks into 2026. And what I can tell you is just from my observation thus far, I really need 2026 to come in and chill out. That's really what I wanted to do. I feel like a lot of people, had an interesting, some people would say a rough 2025. I was one of those people that would say I had a rough 2025. Still blessed in spite of, right? But it was challenging. So I was wanting 2026 to just come in, like make itself come, stretch a little bit. That's cool. But it tried to come in with the same energy, and I'm not having it. I am not having it. So yeah, I'm gonna need it to calm down, chill out, be relaxed a little bit. I don't know if it got the memo that nobody asked for any extra energy. We just need some calm. We need some calm. At least I want some calm. I don't know about y'all. But today I'm going to be talking about the what ifs in your healing journey. And I would love for you to answer this question. How many of you have ever thought, what if I just had, and then you can insert whatever. What if I had just, shared what was on my mind? What if I had just said what I wanted to say in that moment? What if I had told the person that I cared about them, and that could be friendship or a romantic relationship, whatever the case may be. What if I just had, right? I think I will tell you that I think most people have had at least one or two of those in our lives, right? What if I had made a different choice? What if I had believed in myself? What if I had seen my value before, all hell broke loose and it really, took me going through a hard time to see what my value was? A lot of us go through those things, right? A lot of us have those seasons where we just don't do what it was that we might do if we had the wisdom or if we had a different perspective. But y'all, that's just living. That's a matter of just living. And what I will say is, even in spite of us having those moments, those what ifs, God still is in control. God is still in control, despite the choices that we've made, despite the indecision that we've had, which is actually a choice. Not making a choice, not stating a thing is actually a choice in itself. In spite of all those things and taking all those things into account, God is still in control. What I will also say is the healing journey is an exposing time. It exposes you to a lot about other people. It exposes you to how, things work differently. It 100% gives you a different perspective, but it also, and most importantly, teaches you a lot about yourself. It teaches you a lot about, how you handle conflict. It teaches you a lot about how you handle people showing up for you, not showing up for you. It talks to you a lot about how you handle people that are difficult with you or people that don't hold your heart in care or in regard. So a lot of that is exposed. Also in the healing journey, what I've found that can be a dangerous part of the healing journey is, though it is important to reflect, though it is important to remember, people can also get very stuck in the past or in the trauma, right? And I get it, because you're exposing it, you're bringing things to the surface. So of course that's going to make it challenging. Of course that's going to make it tough. But how do you manage the healing? How do you move forward in the healing despite what you've gone through, despite the trauma, despite the hurt? And that's really where we need to start clinging or directing our energy to. Now, I'm not saying that you should not remember. I think that you actually should. I know a lot of people work hard to forget, but that doesn't necessarily make change that needs to be made in your life. Because if you're not reflecting on the past and you're making a bunch of repeated decisions based on that past, then that's not good. It's kind of like when people will say things like, well, life is life, and, people are going to be people, and that's just the way that it is. Yes, people are going to be people, but you don't have to be the same way and deal with things the same way and live the same way that you were before, because growth requires change. Moving forward requires change. It requires accountability. It requires knowledge. It requires skill. It requires patience of yourself, and grace applied towards others, with thought, right? You don't just apply grace to everybody, because some people will take advantage of that. But it is something that you have to, these are all things that I want you to be thinking about. When I was actually considering this as a topic, the what ifs, it's because I can go back in time and really almost like chronologically go through my what ifs. Like, what if I had done this? What if I had, a lot of them are about what would I do differently if I had believed in myself? What would my life have been like if I had the knowledge that I have now in the mind that I had then, right? Which is probably why they say youth is wasted on the young, because we don't think that way when we're younger. Again, life has to happen. You have to have experiences. You have to grow in a lot of areas. But the thing that I really want to talk about when I speak about the what ifs is that the what ifs, if we're not careful, can really become these echoes of pain, right? Where you're just constantly thinking about areas where you allowed yourself to be mistreated, spaces where you're thinking about ways that you didn't show up for yourself, ways that you allow for people to disrespect you, or times where you didn't see your own value, and so the choices you made were really surrounded by the way that you treated yourself or mistreated yourself, and that can spiral. It's not bad to consider those things. I think we should. As I mentioned, reflecting is good. Reflecting is one thing, but allowing for your pain and your trauma to come into your house, and then you cooking it the best dinner possible, and then you telling the trauma that it can sleep over, and you give it the best room in the house, and you make sure that you've fluffed the sheets and you warmed them just so, and then the next day that they're going to have, the best breakfast. Like, we're not going to do that, right? And I think that that's I don't want to say danger, but that can be the danger if we're not careful, because going back and healing does require you to potentially look back at some pain points. It does not mean to stay there. Okay. Which is why oftentimes people will say, how are you healing? Who are you healing with? Are you healing with, the screen is freezing. The screen is freezing on your end. Is the screen freezing on anybody else's end? Y'all, let me know. Please do let me know. I'm going to keep talking, and then just let me know. And then I can repeat anything that I can remember, because y'all, it just comes out. Sometimes I remember and sometimes I don't. So just let me know. Let me know. But what I will say is that, as I was saying, the echoes of pain is one thing that we have to be really intent on not allowing for it to be the loudest thing in the room, right? The things that we've had in the past, yes, they don't just kind of disappear. They exist, but they're going to exist in a space that we control, not in a space that controls us. Okay? Is it still freezing on your end? Does anybody let me know? That'd be really great. I don't want to keep going if no one's able to hear and or see what I'm talking about. So just let me know, y'all. Not on your end? Okay, great. Great, great, great. All right. So things that I want us to think about when we think about the what ifs. And these are, things in your personal space that you need to be thinking about. What if this? What if I had done blah, blah, blah? Then would this have felt the same? Would it have been the same? What if I had said more or said nothing? This is one of the what ifs that I want us to sit with. A lot of us can go back in time and recognize things that we wish that we had stood up for ourselves more. We wish that maybe we had voice to articulate what we're feeling inside. Especially when you're a kid, you don't really know how. I mean, nobody even knew what emotional intelligence was. Like, that was a newer thing, right? But we didn't know how to articulate what we were feeling. Why? Because we're a kid and we're told basically like to, be seen and not heard. So you don't learn really. And I think the problem then becomes, where do you learn how to articulate? Where do you learn how to share these feelings? And this is across the board. Most people that I know that are my age have had the same experience. This is not like a singular thing. Is that most people my age did not learn exactly how to articulate their emotions or their feelings. So as you get older, that doesn't change. So sometimes I think like, man, I wish that I had known how to share, some of the things that I thought, some of my thoughts. For me, it's going in and out. I think it might be where you're located that you might be having that as an issue. I was told that not on Tiffany's end, it's fine on her end. So it may be where you're located that's doing that. But in any event, what if I had said more? What if I had said nothing? There are sometimes I remember people saying things like, man, I should have just said nothing. I should have just kept it to myself. And I understand that to a degree, but the problem then becomes there's a point in time that you're just taking everything in, right? You're never articulating how you feel in a situation because you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep the peace. But I'm always asking this question. And I think it is important to continue to ask this question: whose peace? Because if you're keeping the peace for someone else at all times, right? If you're always choking down how you feel for someone else's peace, the reality of it is externally you may be showing, right, that there's a peaceful situation. And what I mean by that is there's calm, right? It doesn't mean internally there's peace inside of you, because the you that has something to say or something to share or feels like they need to advocate for themselves or feels hurt or feels unjustifiably attacked or whatever it is, that person is suffering on the inside for someone else's peace, right? So it's important for you to recognize, yes, are conversations like that always easy? No. But in the same manner, you have to identify for you what is okay for you, right? What is okay for you. The other person may not like that. And I'm not saying you have to be vicious. I'm not saying you have to be nasty, but it's also the point where are you and your thoughts and how you feel? When does that show up as important? Because that other person says what they have to say, whether it be in kindness, whether it be nasty or whatever. They get it off, they get everything off their chest, and you're set to just suck it in and absorb them and never articulate what it is going inside of you. I can tell you that for me, that never sits in a space of peace, right? That sits in an internal chaos that then years later, because I keep compacting it, is going to come out. It's going to come out eventually in some way, shape, or form. I think a lot of the problem became is that we never really learned how to have conversations as they were necessary. It was like, oh, we're not going to talk about that, or like this is what I said and that's that, and again, those things showed up in business, those things showed up in friendships. I'm talking across the board, right? So there are times that I really like, man, what if I had just said more? And that may also, like, it could also go into like, what if I told someone how I really feel? Because I was not doing that either. What if I told someone, hey, what you said really hurt me? And a lot of the reason why I didn't say that, if I'm going to be entirely honest, is I didn't think they would care. So why am I tell you that what you did hurt me if I know that every time I say how I feel, it doesn't appear as if you care, right? It doesn't appear, there's no, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that I hurt you. There's never that. It's like, oh, you're being dramatic, right? So again, you have to look at, how things show up for you, how it is that things impact you in your healing. Healing is singular to you. It doesn't happen just to you. It happens in the community that you are a part of, or all the communities that you're a part of, because everybody gets the impact of you healing. But I'm going to tell you, healing does expose a lot of the ways that you may have not been good to yourself. And that for me has been one of the, I think, most shocking shocking, powerful, important things that I've learned in my healing journey, is all the ways that, I haven't necessarily been caring for me in a season that now requires me to care for me. And it's challenging. It is challenging because it's like, how do I measure it? How much can I do? And I have other things that need to get done, and this, that. So like, it's the trying to prioritize you in a life that should have already prioritized you from the beginning. Right? So it is a challenge. But the what if of that is, what if I had said more? And I will tell you, there are definitely instances that I can go back to and say, man, I wonder what life would have been like if I had. Now, it's not to say that God's will is God's will is God's will, and God's will is being done, and the season that I'm in is the season that I'm in. However, the what ifs, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that those don't come into my mind every once and again, right? What if I had stayed longer? Y'all, this is an interesting one. So I had dated a man for almost 6 years. So not the ex, y'all, not the ex. That was 4 years. But I dated this man for almost 6 years, and I ended the relationship and then went into a very dark period. I went to a very dark period. I'm talking Sade every day, all day, barely eating, going to work, coming back, and then going to church on Sundays or whatever other day. But I was not in a good mental, emotional space whatsoever. So I dated him for a long time. His mom had passed away towards the end of our relationship, and our relationship just started to fizzle. I was trying everything, giving him space, not giving him space, being there, not being there. And it was to the point where I'm like, dude, if I'm fighting and you're fighting against being in the relationship, like, what am I doing here? So I ended the relationship. And then not long after, I found out he was getting married. It might have been maybe less than a year, I would say. I could be wrong and hazy on the details about that. But I was mad. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I was like, I was with you for 6 years. And then somebody that you had known from elementary school comes back in the picture, and you you're gonna get married. So I was mad. And some things happened as far as like reaching out and not reaching out and communicating and not communicating and all the things, right? But what I will say is, for me, I was like, man, what if I had just stayed? Maybe I just need to stay for that 7th year, y'all. That was in my head. Like, if I had stayed for year 7, would that have been the magic number? Because 7 is the year of completion. So did I stunt myself from my blessing? Y'all, whatever is supposed to happen happened, right? But for me, I remember, finding out he was getting married and feeling like, man, I clearly I stopped, too soon. And that was I will tell you that ate at me for a while. I think that also was one of the things that made me fall into a darker space, was because I'm like, man, did I shoot myself in the foot? Should I have just hung in there? So I don't know if you guys have ever had those type of moments. Then the other one is, what if I healed? What if I healed sooner? So, what I will tell you is, in this space that I'm in currently, where God is healing me from lots of different things, there's an understanding about the timing of how God does things, and the intentionality, how he does things very intentionally, right? Um hey, how you doing? Good to see you. But yeah, like how God is very intentional with how he does things and how he shows up, and why he does the things that he does. But I will say that there was a period of time that I was like, man, what if I had healed sooner from not feeling like I was good enough? What if I had healed sooner and was able to see my own value? What if I healed sooner and I was able to, walk in a space with confidence and knowing that I deserve to be in any room that I walk into? What if that were the version of me that existed for longer than the short period of time that has been existing now, right? But again, everything happens in its time. Everything happens in the season that it's supposed to. Everything, even if it's even though it may be painful, or we don't understand it, or we don't like it, there's an intention behind it, because now I'm able to walk in a space and feel different being in the space that I'm in, right? And that's really, instead of the what ifs and really focusing on the, man, I wish I had done this and then I wouldn't have felt like that. Instead of that, just recognizing, that it's intentional. I remember thinking also, what if I had, chosen, what if I had healed sooner? Would I have had more opportunities sooner? And again, yes, I may have had opportunities, but would I have been able to stand in them in the way that I'm able to now, right? Or would I have gotten the opportunity and squandered it or fumbled it because my feeling about myself was not that great, or my feeling about my capabilities was always in question, and people were constantly questioning my credentials and my ability and my capability, and I was leaning into what they were doing. So there's a reason why, even though we don't, I'm gonna say me, even though I don't necessarily like it, there's a reason, there's an intentional reason why we have to sit in some of the seasons that we do, in order to be able to hold, and to not necessarily to cherish, but I'll use that as a word too, but cherish and to be good stewards of what God gives us in the season now, right? Excuse me. So that's that. All right, y'all. My tea has steeped. Y'all, it is dark. For those of you who just came in late, obviously this is Sipping Tea with Stacey T. You can't have the sipping without the tea. So this is the tea that I am trying for the first time. It is called True Honey Teas Apple Cinnamon. I've never, again, I'm trying it for the first time, never had it. I had never even heard of it. It was a gift. So y'all, let's take a sip and see. Wow. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of apple this is, y'all. I'm trying to figure out what kind of apple it is. I'm like, that's not a Macintosh. I don't know what kind of apple that is. It's very interesting. And so I'm tasting the apple. That's it is apple cinnamon, right? But the apple is the most powerful thing in there by far. I'm tasting cinnamon, but it's not cinnamoning like I expected it to be honest with you. So y'all, I'm going to be putting in some of this honey, which I am so horrible at advertising, y'all. This Connemara honey, finest honey, Christmas cinnamon. I'm going to be putting some of that in there because I feel like that's going to help it. Oh no, am I late again? No. You're you're good. I just I had to stop. I had to steep my drink first. I had to do it for a little bit. And now I'm going to add I have to stir up this honey, y'all, because I just had to stir it up. Because I saw all the cinnamon at the top and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? All right, so let me stir it up a little bit and I'm gonna add some of that. And don't be clocking how much I'm adding, because I know some of y'all probably trying to look to see how big a scoop I might have just put in there. Do not apologize for coming in late. There's no timing. You came in and that's all that matters to me. All right, y'all, I put in some honey. For those who are watching my honey intake, I put in some honey in there. So I'm going to stir that and I'm going to let that sit for a while. Add a little bit more hot water so that it helps the process. And then I'm going to try that in a moment. All right. So coming back to, I guess, whether it's TikTok or YouTube, it will always be the same with me. But you know what? Your presence is felt either way, if it's on TikTok or YouTube. I appreciate it in both spaces. So thank you for being here. All right. So another what if that I want to talk about that I feel like a lot of us sit with is the what if I had chosen differently. Y'all, I think some of us can say we've been in some relationships that maybe would have chosen a little bit differently, right? The relationships either left us with a feeling of self-doubt, with a feeling of like real hurt, like real heartache, real heartbreak, of betrayal. It left us doubting our value. It maybe made us question our faith, if we're going to be honest. It may have made us, there's a lot that goes into being in a relationship with someone and the relationship not working. And it's like, I think it's one thing to be in a relationship and it doesn't work. Okay, like that happens. Adults decide, like you're not my jam. Like we're cool friends, but no, this is not it. And that's different. When it comes to a place where, someone hurts you, like at the core of who you are, or someone questions your integrity, or they question your character, or make other people question your integrity or character because they're lying or being funny, right? Those things hit differently. And so I will say, having been in a variety of relationships, not that many, don't be looking at me crazy, but having been in more than one, but been in a few relationships. And when you're in those spaces, it is a lot to repair some of the damage, right? It's a lot to repair some of the way that people make you feel about yourself. And for me, with the betrayal, that was the biggest piece. That was a lesson was learned in my first relationship. Look, there's a lesson in every relationship, right? Even if the relationship was pure and utter trash, like in retrospect, there's a lot to learn. And it should be about the people that you've been involved with, but it should also and always be about you. It should be about your family and your community. How did they stand in in support of you? How did they maybe check you? If you're the type of person that keeps dating the same loser with a different face, and people have been trying to tell you, girl or man, why you keep dating the same type of person? And you're like, oh, but and you have all the excuses in the world for why why this person continues to show up in your life in the way that they do, and the toxic behavior that they display all the time. And your friends, your family members, they're sick of it, and they've been trying to tell you, and you're never trying to hear them. Then yeah, do they do that for you, or they gave up? They're like, Stacey gonna do what she gonna do. Let's see what the next person that she drags up in here, what that's gonna be like, right? The reality of it is, for me, the lessons in all things, but definitely in relationships and how they pan out, has been very, very helpful for me. Very, very helpful. Because I will say, in the last situation, my family definitely was like, they wrapped me up. And I mean, what I will also say is, for me, it was interesting because in the last breakup situation, I remember me really caring more about in that instant, I was really caring more about how it was going to impact my family. Because when you're with somebody for a number of years, it's not just about you and that person. It's 100% about your families being connected. I still love his mom and sister, and all the niece and nephews, and the extended family. Like, they were so kind and warm, and they immediately took me in, right? So for me, I don't just flip a switch and then that's gone, right? That's not how I operate. So the same thing was how it impacted my family, because you're filling a role, you're stepping into a space, and now we're finding out that you're something different than how you portrayed yourself to be, and we're all left in like the fallout of that. And so I remember that feeling, and thinking like, man, what if I had never even welcomed this person into my life? What if I just immediately, when I felt like a fear? Because I'm going to tell you, when I met him, I was in a space where I was like, God, I'm good. Like, I'm like, God, if I've wanted to be married. Now, don't get me wrong, but I had said to God, if that's it, and you're not going to give me my person, like, I'm going to love you, serve you, and honor you all the days of my life. And I meant it wholeheartedly. And then I met him, right? And I was like, oh God, like, I finally got to this place. And I remember feeling and having people say to me, Stacey, because you were in that space where you had said to God that, whatever you do, God, in this situation, I'm good. That's why God was allowing for you to find your person. But then when all hell broke loose and it didn't happen, then I was like, man, was I hearing something different? But it wasn't just me, y'all. It wasn't just me. I'm a return soldier, so I know how. Yeah, so how it hits. 100%. 100%. So yeah, what if I'd chosen differently? What if I know a lot of people that have been in the military and said, man, what if I never enlisted? What would that have been for me? Especially if they've gotten injured, like physically or mentally, emotionally, spiritually, right? If they got injured and now they're coming back and they're trying to repair life, and what does that look like, and how does that feel for them? It doesn't have to just be about relationships. It's just in your mind, looking back into you and your life. And what if I had chosen differently? What would my path be like right now? When I was younger, they used to have these choose your own ending books, right? And you could like choose A, B, or C. I don't know who these authors were that were writing 3 different endings, because then you have to consider a whole 3 different plots in your writing. But I love those books because I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna read ending C, and then if I didn't like that one, I'd read the other 2, right? But in life, that's not really how it goes. The choices that you make in life that you're going to lead. And so sometimes what if I had chosen differently? Would I have not been living in a space of heartbreak? But then again, would I also not be able to appreciate love, the truest love, when God, sends that in my direction? So it's all, sometimes you have to like, okay, God, I told y'all my motto for the year is, God, I don't understand it. I don't like it, but I trust you. And when you say to God that you trust him, he gonna prove that thing, y'all. He's gonna say, okay, Do you, Stacey? Let's go. Right? Let's go. I didn't really think that through, y'all. I didn't think that through when I made that my motto. I didn't think that last piece through, but here we are. This is where we're at right now. So, what ifs are important. Like I said, they're reflections, but they do live in the past. Healing happens in the present. Okay. Yes, it requires you to look into the past. It requires you to be open to the things that you've endured and the things you've overcome and the things that maybe you've hidden under the rug that you don't even want to deal with because mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you're not there yet. Right. But it takes you looking into the past and being really conscious about the present and how it's showing up in your present. Um, and it's also a present work and it's a present commitment, right? To live in true healing, you have to commit to it now. You have to make the choice to do it now. So that is something that I really want you to hone in on. The other thing that is true of healing and the what ifs is this. You made the best choices that you could have at the time with what you had. With whatever tools you had at the time, with whatever knowledge you had at the time, that's what informed the choices that you had. But what also informed the choices was whatever hurt you had at the time, whatever example you knew at the time. So those things are what shapes the choices that you make. It's what shaped the decisions that you stepped into, the commitments that you made, the things you held as values. All of that was wrapped up in examples of what people had shown you in the past, examples of things that people had not shown you in the past. That's another thing. I feel like people don't understand that not having something, not saying something, not doing something is also a choice, and those are also teachers. Okay. The other thing that informs the healing that we do right now is the capacity. And I will tell you that capacity is going to always be challenged because you don't have a chance to just heal. Like, I'm not going to do anything else. All I'm going to do is heal, right? That's it. That's the only thing I'm going to focus on. More often than not, you're doing multiple things, right? You're doing multiple things. And so capacity is always one of those things where if you're working with somebody else that's going through and you're helping them manage what they're going through, if somebody in your family is going through, if you're personally going through something, all of that is on top of the capacity that you have to do to really focus on your healing. So the thing that I also want you to understand is that the what ifs can teach you. So we talked about lessons, right? The lessons that we learned from people that we've encountered, from heartbreak that we felt, from bad choices that we've made. The what ifs can teach you, but they should not torment you. Okay, they should teach you. They should teach you, man, I should have valued myself more. Or, man, I really didn't recognize, I can see now that I didn't recognize my worth in this situation. Right? So that's what ifs can do. They should not be tormenting you. Like, see, you made that decision. And now, because you made that decision, the rest of your life was hell and nothing positive has happened since you made that choice. And it's all your fault. And, this, that, y'all, people will try to do that for you. You don't need to do that for yourself. Okay. People in your life, people that people that claim to sometimes care about you, people that, have been involved or invested in how you're living your life. Some of them will be the people that will make you feel like that. So you don't need any help in that area. You don't need any help in that area. Y'all, adding that honey, chef's kiss. Adding that honey was perfection. Perfection. It brought out the flavors, but what I was doing was squeezing some of the bag. And I feel like it released more of the apple, more of the cinnamon. Now, one of the things that I will tell you about this particular thing, I think it said on the packaging, it said citric acid. Yeah, I'm tasting that. I'm tasting that citrusy, almost acidic taste to it as well. So that's something just to consider for those of you who are trying to figure out if you're going to try it or not. That's something to consider. All right. So the what ifs, like I said, can teach you, but they shouldn't torment you. Reflection is healthy, but growth asks for two things. So as you're healing, remember you're growing, and I said this at the beginning. Growth asks for compassion and not condemnation. Compassion, not condemnation. What do I mean by that? More often than not, when we're growing, we look back at our former selves and some of the choices that we made, and we will beat ourselves up. Ma'ams and sirs, if you need to beat something up, go hit a heavy bag. There is zero reason why you need to like attack yourself. There's zero reason why you need to beat yourself up for what? Like, what is that going to do for you? What is that going to prove in that moment? Like, what? What is that doing for you? So, you do not need to beat yourself up. You do need to be able to take whatever lessons are coming to you and process them. Okay. So, yes, growth does call for compassion, not condemnation. We should also acknowledge that I'm sorry, y'all. You know I can't. I'm trying to read with my glasses on. We should also acknowledge that the what if is really grief, and it's grieving so many things. I know a lot of people when they have their what if conversations have the what if conversation about what if, this person hadn't passed away. What would my life have been like? And I 100% have had that conversation in my brain. What if my father had not passed away when I think I was 21? What would that have been like? What if my brother had, been able to live and have a relationship with his daughter before, passing away? What would our relationship have been like as adults? Because I was still young, I was still in my early 20s when he passed away. So what would that have been like to be able to have a relationship with him like that as an adult? But we don't have the ability to turn back the hands of time, y'all. I think that a lot of people would. I think that's unfortunately the what ifs and how they torment is people really wish that we had a time machine and we could put ourselves in that and then reverse some of the choices that we made. Some of us may not be here, y'all, if people could turn back the hands of time, right? So that's a very real thing. But I do want you to acknowledge that, as you're processing the whole what ifs and you're processing your whole healing journey, you are sometimes grieving versions of yourself, right? You're grieving the version of yourself that maybe made really bad choices. But I want you to look at her or him and I want you to ask why. Why were those choices made? And oftentimes in healing, we really beat up people or beat ourselves up for the outcome. But what we don't do is we don't take the time to take a step back, take a pause, take a beat, and look at the why. Why is it this person is showing up that way? Why is it this person is reacting that way? And often, if we are going to do that, right, if we show up in not in condemnation, but we show up in compassion, we will recognize that there's a lot of hurt folk out here, us included, many of us included, that are processing hurt at a variety of different levels. And also, we have to recognize that just because you can manage something does not mean that somebody else has that same capability. What impacts you and devastates you will not impact and devastate the next person the same way. What may, be something that you think is minor is a major thing to someone else. So the comparison and not understanding, well, I don't get it. It's not that big a deal. Well, to you, ma'ams and sirs, it's not a big deal. But to the person that's navigating it, it is devastation. It is heartbreak for them. And so I kind of sometimes will take a step back when I think about how I react to other people and how they're managing and think about how God looks at all of us. Because sometimes I'm sure he's like, this is so minor, but it is what it is. But the things that matter to us matter to him. And he is over all the things, y'all. He's over all the things. But let us have a moment. We look at somebody who's going through something and trying to manage and trying to be different and having a hard time with something in their life. And we're like, man, they're so dramatic. It's not even that serious. So imagine that God did that to us. Right? Imagine that he used that same measure of compassion or forethought or care, and he applied that same thing that we apply so easily and so quickly to ourselves and to other people. All right, so that's a what if. What if he did that? because I'm glad that he does not. I'm glad he doesn't apply any of our human or our natural logic to how he shows up for us, and how he treats us, and how he helps us to navigate our mess and our shortcomings and all the things that it is that we do. But understand that people, as they're changing, people as they're healing, are navigating grief. I'm giving up the old version of myself. I'm moving away from the way that people have labeled me for years. I'm moving away from the labels I've given to myself. I'm moving away from, and I'm grieving the version of me that was broken in every capacity, right? I'm grieving that because that's what I've known. And now this is going away. That person is leaving me, and now I'm left with something that I don't know yet. And that's a very real thing. What if I leave what I've always known, going toward a direction that God is pushing me, urging me to do, but what if I get there and I don't know this person? I don't like this person. What if that's the case, right? So there's sometimes this instilled desire to stay stuck, because stuck I know, stuck I understand. This new thing, I have no idea what new Stacey looks like. I don't even know what she likes. Does she like to eat the same food? Because this Stacey likes steak and lobster. Will the new one like that too? I don't know. So I think that we have to give ourselves and I say it all the time, a measure of grace, right? We need to do that, because the process of grieving, right? When we see somebody that has lost a loved one, we have for most of us we have a level of compassion for them, right? What they're going through, because if you've lost anybody, you know what that feels like. You know the shift that happens in the family and the dynamic that happens in that unit, but also within you individually, because you're mourning the future that you're not going to have, the memories you're not going to be able to create with that person. So the same thing happens, but in a different way, when you're moving from this version of Stacey to the newer versions, the newer iterations, the newer updates, if you will, of what you've been before. And that is challenging. It's challenging for you, and it is challenging for all the people that are connected to you, because many people like the version that you are now. They do not want change to happen for you. They don't like it because they can't control it. It's not something that they are, maybe fully integrated in, or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times people are creatures of habit, and they like for things to stay the same. But growth does not allow for that to be the case. I mean, if you look to being saved, it says you are going to be a new creation, right? All things have passed away. Behold, all things become new. So even the word tells you, if you intend to be a new creature, if you intend to be saved, you intend to move in the direction of becoming more like God, then you're going to be changing. The way that you function now is not going to be able to be sustainable in this new iteration, this new creature, this new creation that you're becoming, that you're choosing to walk into, right? So the healing is the same thing. I'm choosing to walk into this space because I need to be different. I need to show up as differently. Why? Because I'm asking God for more. I'm asking God for the next thing. And the next thing can't be given to me when I'm still wearing the old skin or the old thing. Okay. So that's something that I want to share with y'all. I'm done. I'm not going to be holding y'all for the entire time if I don't need to. I'm going to be very intentional with y'all's time, with my time, all the time. And I just want to tell you all again, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you guys sharing this to people. It means a lot. This is we're in a whole year. We're almost a year. We're almost a year, y'all. Almost a year since the first one. And on that date, I haven't quite decided what I want to do, but I'm going to do something to commemorate it, something. So I'll figure that out. I will figure that out. But again, thank you so much. Have a blessed rest of your day. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and extend to yourself. And please, to me, your girl, a measure of grace. I'll see you next week, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for episode 3, season 3 of Sipping Tea with Stacey T. Thank you. Much love to you too. I appreciate you. Bye, y'all.